Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Game Junk Podcast, episode 153, recording on Monday, June 5th, 2023. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And two huge games dropped last Friday, Diablo 4 and Street Fighter 6. But we're going to be talking VR. Apple, you know what? I don't even know the name. I'm a big Apple head, and I don't know the name of the
Apple Vision Pro.
Apple Vision Pro, which was announced today. We were going to talk a bit about the Meta Showcase or Meta Quest Showcase, which we still will. But I think we're going to start with Apple and talk VR a bit. I have played some Diablo 4, so I'll get into my initial thoughts as well. Anything else going on out there other than the world abuzz about virtual and augmented reality, gentlemen?
No, I mean, this week is Summer Game Fest, so there's lots of stuff coming up for next episode. But
when is the presentation for Summer Games Fest? I thought it was next Monday or something.
Well, I think it's this Wednesday or Thursday, maybe.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Is Microsoft next?
Thursday. It's on Thursday. Yeah, Microsoft is on Sunday.
All right.
So lots of stuff coming up.
Very exciting. All right, let's just get into the news du jour. The Apple Worldwide Developers Conference for 2023 was today. Lots of gaming news, including Hideo Kojima bringing Death Stranding Director's Cut to Max. Is there a game that's been force-fed more than Death Stranding?
Yes, Cyberpunk.
No, I don't think so. There's always some announcement with Death Stranding. It's coming to some new platform, Director's Cut. I think he really wants the world to appreciate this game, and no one is buying it. They're not buying it because they're giving it out for free on the Epic Game Store all the time. But just no one wants to embrace Death Stranding. But I need to play it. I have to finish Death Stranding to weigh in on whether this force feed is warranted or not.
Add it to the list. Add it to the summer list.
Got to. It's got to go on there. It just comes up too often. The game will not go away. But the real story of the show was the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, hang on. I thought you were going to talk about the Mac Pro. Didn't you guys see the cheese grater? Didn't you see it?
What?
The Mac
cheese grater?
The new Mac Pro looks like a cheese grater.
Yeah.
You never see that?
Oh, yeah.
$7,000 cheese grater. That's the story.
Well, yeah.
If I had extra cash, I'd be buying that cheese grater. I was a company or was just looking to buy anything Apple, I'd buy it anyway.
I just must say that thing blew my mind because Apple normally has a very nice presentation, and that thing literally just looks like a cheese grater standing there, and they're flaunting it. Anyway, sorry to derail this excellent conversation.
I don't mind. I think it's a pretty sexy cheese grater. Quite a bit. But this Apple headset has been long rumored. There's been leaks for the design. It's been talked about for a very long time. And we kind of got the sense it was going to get officially announced today, which it was. They spent about 45 minutes of the 2-hour presentation talking about it. And it pretty much matches the exact leaked images that I've seen so far for the most part. And I have a lot of thoughts. Sean, you are the VR guy, or so you say. What did I say of the Apple Vision Pro?
Well, I guess we waited because we thought we would talk about it on this episode and thought it would be newsworthy, which it obviously is. But I think the interesting angle is that it really isn't gaming related at all. At least they're not pushing that angle to it. They had a brief. They showed some Apple Arcade games being played on it. And as you mentioned, there was a couple other gaming related announcements earlier in the show. But
with regards to gaming, they don't talk about it a lot. They do mention the arcade, like you said, but it would be pretty easy to imagine if there's an install base porting any game
Yes.
onto this thing and putting it on the Apple Store. And they mentioned Unity integration for a lot of stuff as well. So I don't think it's a big stretch to imagine what it could be. But that's kind of the theme of this whole presentation to me is, yeah, this is what VR and AR has been forever. What's unique about this one? So anyway, Sean, continue.
Well, yeah, and I think really it's just that they're taking a different approach with how they're trying to sell it. There's been VR headsets out for a while now, and obviously gaming kind of pushes the technology forward, and those are a lot of the early adopters are gamers. Meta tried to launch their, what was it, the Meta Quest Pro 2 or Pro 1? I don't remember the name of it, but they had their sort of like business productivity headset that they launched last year. Sounds like it hasn't really taken off, but I don't know for sure. And it's almost like Apple's coming in and they're after that market, but they're kind of targeting it at people more as a home entertainment device. So something that you can kind of throw on when you're on the couch and you can watch movies like in sort of like a big screen format.
It almost sounds like a replacement for a television for people who live in small places.
Yeah. And that's the thing I was thinking. It was like, okay, this makes a lot of sense if you're in a small apartment and you don't want to have a big screen TV or you don't have space for like a home theater setup. But then it's weird for other use cases, like, families. On the one hand, we talk about this all the time, usually your TV is monopolized by someone else. So having a device like this to throw on and do your own thing is cool. But like, what about sharing, like watching a movie with someone else? Like, how does that work with this device? It's a very strange thing to think about.
Well, when we're living in our pods, Sean, it won't matter.
Yes.
We're living by ourselves and looking in our visors all day.
But that's the thing, is they were very like, they kept pointing out this doesn't isolate you because it's got this sort of see-through lens. And like the whole thing is they are framing it more as an AR device. So it's like you have apps and things that you see in front of you, but they kind of appear in the room with you, as opposed to like, I mean, you can do like fully immersive stuff that's like a 180 degree panorama type screen or something. But they kept talking about that if somebody comes into the room, that it'll automatically like show the pass through so you can see that person and interact with that person still. That was a big thing. Like, we're not isolating you from other people. But they kind of are. So I really don't, the price tag is the big thing. Super expensive. I don't know who's buying this to start with. I'm curious, but it's
was $3,500 US, I think.
Yeah.
So that's going to be like 5Gs in Canada or close to that.
Yeah. So it's not a day one purchase for me, probably not a year one purchase for me, but I am curious to see if they can crack this market and kind of push AR and VR forward a bit. I'm
interested to see, like, they're marketing it as AR, but it's not really AR. It looks like the eyes are like a digital representation of your eyes. It's not really like, it's not like AR glasses where, something is projected. There's like on just the lens that you're looking through. It's actually like, it is kind of like a regular VR goggles with this glass projection thing that people could see into. It's very strange. It doesn't, because of how the lenses
Let's
work.
figure this out. Let's try to settle in on this, because I also am not 100% clear on this based on the presentation, which I just watched. Is it just a screen that gets darkened, or is it like a permanently isolating screen that uses cameras and screens to do pass-through in both directions?
It's definitely screens with a high resolution pass-through, because they were talking about the screen resolution and all the pixels are like whatever 4K per lens. There's no way you're gonna like have that be a pass, like light coming through that and then put an image over top. Like,
of course, I forget I said that. That's one of the most embarrassing things I've ever said.
No, come on, you've said way more embarrassing stuff.
I agree, but it's up there.
So it's like they have a weird marketing angle because it doesn't seem to be, I mean, from what we could tell, we can't really tell for sure, but it sure looks like this is a VR device that has elements of AR because of the high resolution color pass through images. And I was wondering how, when they were calling it an AR device, but then they showed like you could just turn that dial and shut out the world. I was like, what the hell? Like, how does an AR device do that? And it doesn't really. It's more of a VR device with the full HD like visual pass through. So
it's interesting that you mentioned it not being an AR device, in the sense that, you know, whenever HoloLens and other AR devices have been shown off in the past, it's always about finding something in real life and accentuating it, or new ways to observe it, manipulate it, get information related to it. And there was none of that in this presentation. So it's interesting that I mean, Apple's basically focusing, at least from my perspective, on bringing the Apple ecosystem into a VR headset.
They had a little bit of that when they talked about how like the Windows cast shadows into the environment.
Right.
They are basically, from what I can tell, they are taking a real-time image of the environment, essentially probably real-time modeling that in 3D, and then projecting the Apple Windows or whatever into that 3D generated environment.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know if they're maybe modeling it and mapping those images. I'm not sure.
Or at least they may not be displaying the 3D image, but they have to be doing that in order to project the shadows and the lighting properly and everything like that. Because they were showing stuff where like the windows.
That's an approximation, stuff like
true
panic room opening titles kind of thing is what I would imagine that type of stuff is. But I'm curious to see how Apple makes a VR user experience flawless. Based on Apple, they would not be announcing this or releasing this if they didn't think the user experience was close to flawless. And I can certainly say for myself, using MetaQuest and other VR headsets, they are flawed, deeply flawed, and it's always a struggle using them. So if they've cracked that, and I trust Apple to integrate their ecosystem in the best possible ways, and this presentation reflected that, I would say. It's like Apple aesthetics into VR is another perfect marriage. I'm down with it.
I must say though, they were pushing the like productivity angle of like, look, you can use Word and everything, Excel. But let me tell you, the amount of time they spent with a guy using a keyboard was about half a second. And all the other times they talked about input, it was through text or voice to text. So
yeah,
I still think that the keyboard issue is going to be a problem. So when they first said AR, I was excited because I'm like, oh, great. You'll be able to have your keyboard and type on it and have that tactile feedback and have input. But that doesn't seem to be the case. They did not mention that at all.
There.
They
did.
Well, it was a virtual keyboard though.
No. By the end, they said it's got like Bluetooth integration, so your Magic Trackpad, Magic Keyboard, all Apple Bluetooth devices just work with it automatically. So if you just bought the generic wireless Magic Keyboard from Apple, you could use it with the VR headset.
Okay, that's interesting then. And
I agree, that's interesting.
But the other thing is that this doesn't come with controllers. Like most VR gaming headsets come with controllers, and it feels a lot like when the iPhone came out and they were so adamant that you're not going to use a stylus with this thing. You have to use your fingers. And I think mostly they proved to be on point with that, and the technology was good enough. But I'm really curious because, they showed sort of this idea of like touching your index finger and thumb together as like a click and kind of just moving your hand to scroll. Like I've used the MetaQuest, whatever you call it, the hand tracking, and it's pretty glitchy. So, I mean, I'm curious to see what Apple has done with that.
That's why I'm saying I trust they figured that stuff out perfectly, would be my guess. Either way, I don't really care. This was just like almost rebranding VR and AR as an Apple product. And it's just not that good. We all have VR headsets. We all like them, but you don't want to be in there that long. I tolerate it for games, for social stuff, and for work. I would never wear that thing all day. It seems absolutely insane to me.
Did they talk about the weight of it?
They mentioned it. It's like I would assume it's pretty lightweight, but even then, they show a guy at work walking around the office with this thing on, and it's like, Apple, I thought you were better than this. Like, this presentation is pretty cringe, as far as I'm concerned, and like, you have not convinced me at all. I'm in for the tech. The most interesting part to me is at the very end when they showed like the pixels and like how refined the millions of pixels are to produce like basically a seamless image is what they seem to be saying, which sounds amazing from a tech standpoint. Like just a VR headset that's completely immersive, the customization, fitting it together so it's perfectly sealed to your face. Yeah, that all sounds incredible, but
also the like
I don't want to spend time in it unless I really want to do something in VR.
The other neat thing, I don't know if you guys caught this, but it has like magnetic lenses that you can choose based on kind of like your prescription, or like, so if you have glass, like you need eyeglasses, you can kind of adjust it based to more kind of correctly match, which is probably going to be extremely expensive upgrade, I imagine, knowing Apple. Oh, yeah. And like, but kind of a neat feature, because that's, it's kind of a pain in the butt to wear your glasses inside a VR unit. So I am actually, I think when we were doing the show on the Quest 2 or whatever, I was saying how I can envision doing those kind of virtual screens and stuff, like making a screen huge, watching a movie in a VR set if it was more comfortable. So depending on what the weight of this thing is, I can see that being an option. And, with people buying into Apple products, I can see people buying this and doing that. And I mean, so for me, the keyboard thing and the Mac thing in general keeps me away from programming in this thing. But I mean, the fact that if you don't have to have monitors, if you just needed this thing and like a small Bluetooth keyboard, it's a pretty powerful tool for being able to be productive. I mean, I could go anywhere and just bring my keyboard and this thing and then potentially work in a pretty seamless environment. Maybe not the stuff I do with the consoles and stuff, but it's
well, let's talk about the portability idea.
It's pretty cool.
With the
can be.
The last thing that they got into very late in the presentation, you could see it here and there, was it's a battery pack. The battery is not integrated into the headset. It connects with a supple woven cable, as they said. So it's very supple, mag safe, and they said, I think you could use it maybe all day. Don't quote me on that. I was kind of
I checked. It's 2 hours battery life.
2 hours?
Yeah.
Good God.
I mean, I was shocked.
Okay, hang on. Under the cost of one of those battery packs I'm going to go over $200.
Oh, definitely over 200.
But yeah, I must have misheard or something, but that is not good.
I'll double check right now, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. And that is the weird thing. Like, with the Meta Quest, obviously being completely cable free is a big thing. That's what people want. But I have to admit, mine's always dead. Like, maybe if you use it every day, it would be different. But like when you're just using it for games here and there, every time you're like, oh, I'm going to go play, it's dead. So it's kind of a problem with it compared to like the PSVR, which you just plug in and go.
Yeah, I guess because the charger or the battery, detaches, you could charge it separately and it's not as big of a deal to charge it. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
But that's like, we're really force feeding this idea. First thing, we didn't bring this up. So the interface, the first time they bring up looks a bit like their CarPlay interface, but what does it really look like? When you saw the circle images going across, what did everyone think of immediately?
Vita.
Vita, you got it, baby. It is the Vita interface. Another win for Vita. They might have copied it from something too. I don't know, but that's the first thing I thought of. So that was a nice little Blue Haze win, and Death Stranding's a bit of a Blue Haze win. We talked about this before the show. I always wanted Apple, Nintendo to hook up. Maybe it's Sony, Apple.
I mean, that really would be your true dream at this point.
It's not the one I think should happen. It's the one, if it does happen, forget it. It's over. I'll destroy this computer. I'll throw it into the scrapyard. I'll get rid of everything and just only have Apple products. The best news of the whole WWDC was they have a new sideways mode for your phone to use it basically as an alarm clock at night. So I can finally get rid of my Google Home or whatever in my room. So thank God I can purge Google from my life.
That's kind of cool, actually.
I've been waiting. How has that not happened? It should have happened a long time ago.
Well, so while we're talking about partnerships, should mention the Disney Bob Iger appeared on stage briefly.
It really went into cringe mode.
And so they showed this, they're like, Disney Plus is going to be there day one. Like, that's some amazing thing. And then they showed this sort of trailer of what could happen, what they might do. And I was just like, what? Like, this isn't going to happen. Like, what is this? Like, it just looked like background, like immersive backgrounds to the Disney Plus app. Like,
the Mando thing looked like old 2004 DVD menus. It was brutal. And I'm like, all I could think about was Apple Vision Pro is a storyteller. It's going to be the new storyteller. And I can't wait. Personally, I love telling stories. I love storytellers, and any platform that enables storytellers is a win for everyone in the world. But everything with the Disney looked brutal. Really, everything looked brutal. I could have imagined what an Apple OS looks like in VR. So, I mean, the hard part is with VR headsets, seeing is believing, and wearing it is believing. And I don't think that's ever been more the case than this VR headset, where it's like, okay, if it's this much, it better blow my mind. I'm just can't wait to do my mindfulness sessions with this thing. I'll tell you what, people are ready to use this thing for mindfulness sessions.
Me too. For sure. Definitely. Well, that is a definite Silicon Valley,
there, right?
Well, but it plays exactly into their target market. They are targeting Silicon Valley executives who will buy this for their entire company and blow some insane amount of money on this thing for the goal of more productivity. So
I thought the mindfulness session thing was like Apple code or covert for, yes, this thing will support pornography.
No, that's meditation, man. Get with it.
This will be the ultimate pornography device.
The ultimate stress relief device.
Once that mindfulness session, once I made that correlation, go back and rewatch the presentation. It reads a completely different way. Your hands are able to touch and feel, and you can use your perfect primary sensory devices.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a totally different show.
When I was bought in, I'll tell you when I got bought in. It was when they talked about how they've got all this history of making Mac OS and iOS and iPad OS. And then after they say they used all that technology to build it from the ground up.
You got it.
They definitely built it from the ground up. If they were using all that technology, let me tell you, that's when I was bought in. That's when I knew this baby was a game changer. When they built it, they threw all that technology away and built it from the ground up.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, the hardware, they didn't have anything to build from. So they had to start with nothing. They did build the hardware from the ground up. But they
literally said it right after they were talking about all those other OSs they have.
Experience-wise, definitely not starting from nothing. The grossest thing by far to me of the headset, they're like going in to show all the the details of the headset, and they go to the back and the headband and orange piping. Ew.
I'm just seeing
What
that now
is
in the
that?
picture.
Yeah, but it was 3D printed knitted or something like
Yeah,
that.
that's cool. But then inside in the interior is orange pipe.
You'll be able to buy whatever color piping you want, I'm sure. Another
I don't
add-on.
know. That's
$100.
They did say you could get different bands for it. So,
It's
but
modular,
yeah,
man.
I mean,
It's modular.
like, what do you think of the look of this thing? Because I feel like that's a big part of it. Like Google Glasses never really came out, but people always talked about like who's going to wear these things in public, and like they were kind of showing this as something you could bring on a plane with you. Like, does this have the cool factor? Can you see people wearing these and not feeling embarrassed?
yeah, it looks really good. It's a very sexy headset.
I mean, I think that's the one thing
mindfulness
is
session tonight, just thinking about that.
I think it's just the fact that it's Apple kind of just makes it like cool automatically. People are like excited to wear it or show it off because it's Apple, and that somehow is going to get them an in to some degree. But I mean, I don't know. It could.
They should have said all of our future developers conferences and live events. If you have this headset, you will be able to attend virtually in the front row.
That's true. I mean, they did show briefly,
For
like
life.
they did show some sports stuff, which was kind of intriguing. I don't know how that will actually, if that's even going to happen or be possible. But I mean, I feel like that there have been apps
Sean,
doing this for years. And
the point is, all this stuff exists already. There's not a single thing they showed that doesn't exist in some form. The only new idea, which I think has some benefits, is the outward screen. If like knowing if you're focusing on something else, or like communicating to the outside world, your state in VR, that's an interesting idea. Although the branded eyesight feature, like that's just creepy to me. There's something about it. It's at first I'm like, oh, this is cool, and the more I looked at it, I'm like, I don't like this.
Hey man, they're committed to privacy. They will not allow where you're looking to be shared with anyone.
I like that. I'm just talking about like, even I know it's about making a connection with people, but even that version of a connection might be more off-putting. I mean, we did a whole podcast with Huck wearing a VR headset, and I felt pretty connected. I didn't need to see a video presentation of his eyes. He was into it.
Totally. I must say, the one thing that gave me major Vanilla Sky vibes was the 3D like video taking they showed, not related to gaming at all. But I thought that was kind of cool. And I don't know. I don't know if like kids would put up with you wearing a like goggles while they're like looking at you all creepily, but you know, like the end result would probably be pretty neat if they put up with it. I guess if you indoctrinate them young into the Apple Vision Quest Pro, whatever they're calling it, they'd put up with it.
I mean, we could be getting to strange days at this point, like recording full experiences and sharing with other people. Snuff films, whatever you need.
The weirdest thing
cool.
that seems cool or is a surface level, oh, neat, but the more you think about it, it doesn't make sense, is FaceTime. Where it was, hey, you can have a FaceTime call with a bunch of people. Yeah, but they can't see me.
Well, they talked about having that like avatar representation of you. So they must have some sort of like voice to facial expression, like conversion on a 3D model.
They already have that. Yeah.
But like runtime?
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, like, so they have with is it Memojis or something like that? Like you can like move your face and it maps it to all these avatars and stuff like that. So,
but isn't that taking a picture of your face and mapping it on? This is voice to a facial expression.
Yeah, but I think it's some voice imprint thing where they just they'll just have
they'll be able to capture some of your facial expressions and movements, I assume, from the cameras.
How? It's right up against your face.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I certainly was. It seemed like a really elaborate solution to a problem that really shouldn't exist, which is Like if
the way
everybody's talking
people
to each
say
other,
words is basically the same. When you're talking, they'll have a bank of like turning any set of words into animated expressions.
Yeah, it's like face effects, but it's like in games, there's this software called Face Effects, which analyzes a waveform and then does it. But that's all like pre-computed shit. It's not real time.
I mean, it can work. It's the thing is, it's going to be way worse than seeing an actual image of the person live, right? Like it's some weird like mediated version of people. And if everybody has these things, that's how we're talking to each other now. Like
West had this already in Spaces or whatever, and no one liked it anyway. It already sucked. So
how much is Meta shitting their pants after going all in on Meta? Speaking of Meta, when they wanted to basically take this market for themselves and make the metaverse. Well, this is looking like a better step forward than using the Quest to reach the metaverse.
I'm sure that's why they announced the Quest 3 like earlier the week before, which is a lighter weight version of the Quest. But yeah, I think at this point, they just need to focus on gaming. I don't think they're going to win the productivity office battle at this point.
Totally agree. I personally don't think there's a productivity office battle to be fought, at least not for another 10 years. So I know very few people who like use their VR for anything but games, like some maybe VR chat, which is kind of a game or something like that. So I don't know. I don't see that battle happening, but they definitely have the edge there. But I mean, once the price gets down over iterations, like just having it integrate with Apple ecosystem will be a win at some point, because it is one of the best ecosystems, if not the best. Like I love all my Apple products, and them working together is seamless, and I trust them to make that work with VR. But for $3,500 American, I do not care. I don't even like VR that much. I barely want to do it for gaming. For non-gaming, I have no desire to put that headset on. So the last thing, I guess, tying it back to gaming and linking into the Meta Showcase, I would consider buying this if it was like you could use it for Steam games or something like that, right? If I could use it for both. And it's like the best PC headset, and I can also use it for all my Apple stuff as well. If it had that dual purpose, I would consider it.
I'm sure that will be coming, because you can run Steam on Macs. So in theory, you could but
half of those VR games won't run on a Mac. And then on top of that, like they require like controllers and other parts that are not integrated with that headset, and recognizing them. Like, will those cameras recognize other controllers or tracking other than hand tracking? I don't think they will. So,
I assume those controllers would have been Bluetoothed in. Like, are you talking about the DualSense controller?
No, I'm talking about like just like typical Oculus controllers, or the ones that use your hand.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about playing like normal 2D screen Steam games.
No. I mean like VR game. Like if I could use it for Half-Life Alyx or something like that. If I could use it for both. Because honestly, using my Meta Quest for PC games sucks. It is not a good experience. It does not integrate well with Steam. I kind of hate it.
Yeah. I mean, porting between all these different VR headsets is not easy, I don't think. Like at this point, we're seeing some PSVR games get upgraded for PSVR 2, but there's a lot that they're saying just won't happen because the tracking is so different between the Move versus the new ones. It's a lot harder, and I don't know if it's worth the effort for a lot of companies to be trying to support all these different headsets. So I don't know. I mean, that is possible, but like PSVR and PSVR 2 theoretically, I think can be plugged into a PC and are recognized. But from what I've heard, all you can really do is play like 2D VR games that are kind of on a 2D plane. It won't pick up like head movement and stuff like that. So
I mean, the last thing I will mention is Huck alluded to the movie theater experience. And I mean, if that is great and I can watch a movie apparently that's under 2 hours, I ironically they showed Avatar Way of Water, which it sounds like you won't be able to watch in one sitting in 3D, but that could be a cool experience. But it better be really good and convincing, because I've used similar things in the Quest and other VR headsets, and I couldn't be bothered. It is not that much of an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that this does have is that it looks a lot more comfortable. You know, like I've watched full movies with the PSVR headset on, and it is not like, it's way too heavy. It's just super uncomfortable.
When you're having a mindfulness session, you don't want to be thinking about like the headset.
Definitely not.
All
But
right,
think of the
don't have
3D
my-
video possibilities. Think of the 3D video mindfulness sessions you could be having.
Yeah, I
You know
know
what I'm
it could be good, but I really can't say anything until I use it. That's how this is going to go. And I'll be surprised if it launches when they say it's going to.
Yeah, well, they said not till next year for sure, right?
Yeah, and especially previous tech demos with Apple, like they like let people use it. Steve Jobs would use the app, like live demonstrations and stuff like that. So they don't have that ready to go and ready to put it on people that day. That's a bit of a red flag for me. It actually makes me seem like Apple's kind of desperate because they've been talking about this for so long.
I mean, they are desperate just in the sense that they haven't, basically since Steve Jobs died, I don't think they've put out anything that's really been kind of a game changer or really even like, you know, I guess the Apple Watch was something, but I guess it's arguable how successful that's been. So
yeah, I wouldn't call it a game changer though. And I don't think this is a game changer.
Well, I think this has the potential to, at some point, be like the mainstream thing that brings people into VR. I just, you know, certainly not at that price point, it won't be, but it's years off before we even think about that being a possibility.
The reason why I don't agree with you is we have VR. We've bought multiple headsets. We say we want to play VR. We have people that we demo the VR to that are like, that's really cool. And no one's ever like, wow, I would stay in here all day if it was just a little lighter, or like, it's just not something you want to do for that long.
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly, it's possible that it will never be a mainstream thing, but I think at least they're marketing it in a different way, right? They're not really focusing on the gaming. They're saying, hey, this is like home theater. This is checking email, browsing the web, all the things you do already on your phone, but now it's hands-free and it's on a big screen. It could, if it works really well, that could be something, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of disappointed. I love Apple, and I thought this was when they were gonna reveal it, it was gonna blow my mind, and it did not.
Hey, I mean, a lot of people laughed at the iPad, right?
Who?
They just thought, oh, what giant iPhone, who wants that? But obviously it turned out to be a pretty big thing. So
yeah, I mean, I can imagine people using an iPad. I know what VR is. It's like, were there tablets when the iPad launched? I can't remember if it was a mainstream thing yet.
I'm sure there were. I don't think it was
the difference.
A huge thing.
There are equivalents for everything in this video already. There just might not be as good. So if it's really good, maybe it'll work. Other than that, right?
Yeah.
Correct. If it's good, it'll be good.
I don't know. Even then, I don't know if it'll be $5,000 good. That's a whole nother question.
That is another question.
And that's not including like accessories, like you said, batteries, extra chargers, forcing me to buy a different headband without orange piping. Like, I don't even want to go there. I do not want to go there. Well, let's go into the other showcase this week, the Meta Quest Gaming Showcase for 2023. This thing was huge. People were losing it. People have been talking about it all week. The big announcement, Meta Quest 3 is releasing, was it this fall or this holiday?
This fall, yeah.
Now, I don't know if they released more stuff about it online, but the cool thing, or the coolest thing, in my opinion, of the Apple reveal was the tech specs at the end and showing why it's great. Not a whole lot of that going on in this, just it's going to be better. Okay, how is it going to be better specifically? And then we'll get into Asgard's Wrath 2 and what that, well, let's get into it now. So the big game of this conference or showcase, pardon me, was Asgard's Wrath 2, which is a sequel to a very highly rated Oculus game that was only on PC. It was not on the Quest. And this is a sequel that will be on the Quest 3, but also the Quest 2. That's a big announcement. I think one of the best things about this was all games from the Quest 2 will work on the Quest 3. I know that's kind of expected, but that was nice to hear. But because the old Asgard's Wrath was on PC, it was like technically impressive. And to now make Asgard's Wrath 2, I mean, it's an interesting open world. I hear the game is good. I've not played it, but it looked like a step down. It looked like it was like regressing to work on Quest 2 and Quest 3, which like seems a weird, like this is your new platform and we're kind of going backwards in terms of how games are going to look on this. So I'm really surprised that game is on both. And it was like the thing. I thought they would at least have a game that this is on the Quest 3 and it's going to demonstrate how powerful it is compared to the Quest 2. That did not exist in this presentation.
Yeah, it looked.
Yeah, I haven't
looked to me. It looked like almost like a PS2-ish game, maybe even PS1. It was really like blank, flat planed everything, flat ground, very plain. Even the character models look pretty blocky. I mean, you can't expect too much on VR, but like you said, this is your showcase game you're showing. Like I like this compared to Half-Life Alyx is like not even in the same universe.
Yeah.
Half-Life Alyx is just insanely better than this. Even 4 years later now, however long Half-Life Alyx came out ago. I mean, Half-Life Alyx is incredible, and this looks like trash compared to that.
Well,
this is
I
your
will
showcase.
Say, I think design-wise, they've got some interesting VR stuff going on. So I watched or listened mostly to little podcasts at the end where they talked about it, and the idea of using your whip to like go to your mount, and like I think they have good VR design principles. So I think it could be a really great game. It was just odd to me, like that nothing stood out as the Quest 3 game to have.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's definitely they're pushing it clearly as they're hoping this is a system seller for either the Quest 2 or the 3. But I mean, I haven't played the first one yet. I did recently just purchase it. I think you guys got it free when you got your
I think
headsets, didn't
you?
you?
It was a deal. I got it for like $7 or something.
Okay.
On sale at some point. Or maybe
yeah. Like reviews have been really amazing for the game, and I do want to play it. So I guess it's a question of how much do graphics matter? And it is an interesting point with the Quest 2 and even the Quest 3, I assume. I think they made a sacrifice there where they said, people want portability, people want lower price point. We're trying to get this thing into as many homes as we can. But in doing that, they are sacrificing the power that comes with playing it a VR on PC or PlayStation. So yeah, a lot of their high-end games, like people ask for certain games that come out on Steam VR. They're like, when's this coming to Quest? And sometimes they're like, we can't. Like we cannot fit this game on a Quest. So that is a bit of a problem. I'm hoping, and I still think based on what I've read, that it's not beyond the graphics, it's still going to be a very fun game. It's like, this huge kind of open world RPG and using a lot of interesting VR mechanics. So I still am looking forward to that. But yeah, visually, I mean, this is a problem with a lot of like this whole showcase. Like none of these games look very good.
No,
the Ghostbusters game looked terrible.
They barely showed anything from it. And that was if Asgard's Wrath is the feature game, Ghostbusters is right behind it. And I barely saw anything from that game. Like, I can't even tell you what you do in the game. I was like, did I miss something? Did I blink and miss gameplay footage from this?
No, I don't think so.
Is it the Ghost Lord? Is that or Phantom Lord? What?
Yeah, it was all it was kind of like they were giving some story background to this game, and it's like nobody cares about this.
I mean, if that tells you right there, this game is in trouble, 100%.
Yeah, I would think it's. I mean, I don't have a good feeling about it right now.
So before I like get over some of the like absolute non-announcements and like absolutely zero needle movement, let's get into like a little bit of movement. I think the other one that I was kind of into was Samba de Amigo, which was a game I always wanted to play. I wanted to buy the Maracas controllers for Dreamcast. And I can't believe it's taken this long for this game to come to VR. It seems like it's perfect.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, I never played the original either. It kind of was, had that reputation of like cool, quirky peripherals and it seemed kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, rhythm games definitely are something that's found a nice home in VR. And this one seems to make a lot of sense.
And then I figured for you guys, not so much for me, but Seventh Guest VR seems like it could be interesting. I've never played Seventh Guest. Have you guys?
Yes, I've played it. Well, when it first came out, and then I played it maybe like 3-4 years ago when there's some like, I don't know, Humble Bundle or something I got with it in it. And that and the other game, 11th Hour, which I think is by the same studio, but it's kind of like explore this mansion and find puzzles and unlock those puzzles. It kind of reminds me of
a Haunted Mist, isn't it? It's like a Haunted House Mist.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of The Room, just a little bigger, and the puzzles are a little trickier. I believe they're a little more obscure. So yeah, I mean, it didn't look necessarily like better than I mean, the original is definitely not great, but it had a style to it because of the limitations at the time. And this didn't really portray the same style to me. But I mean, the puzzles in VR will probably be fun. So it's definitely one of the more interesting things.
Yeah, I never played this back in the day, believe it or not. But I thought we would be seeing more adventure game stuff in VR, and it hasn't really happened yet. So, but yeah,
it's like
I would
the
play
perfect
this.
genre for it. You don't have to move quickly, contemplative. You have a 3D space to do puzzles. Even the Batman Arkham puzzles, where it's like fitting things into like 3D spaces. I thought we'd see way more of that stuff in VR. The only other thing I really think is worth mentioning was I Expect You to Die 3, because I know Sean really likes that game, but more so from the same developers, Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire. Like this idea of sound in VR and being really careful and not trying to like alert anyone or anything seems like it could be a good idea. I don't know if another VR game has done that already, but that seems like an opportunity that hasn't been capitalized on yet.
Seems like a jump scare nightmare for you, but yeah, I thought it was a cool idea. I mean, they really didn't show anything. It was like a announcement trailer, really, but yeah, it sounds cool.
Did I embarrassingly have not beaten Half-Life Alyx? I feel like there might have been sequences like that in that game. Does that sound?
I also haven't beat it, so
not that I've seen so far, but yeah, I haven't beat it either.
Okay. Well, we got a triple round of embarrassment on this pod. I'm just gonna skip over quickly over some of the other stuff.
So I I'm just looking. So I was like, I gotta find a comparison, and I found they announced the NFL Pro Era game on the Meta Quest. So I have side by side videos of it versus the PSVR 2 footage. And let me tell you, the Meta Quest looks like they really had to dumb down a lot of the stuff to get it to run. The lighting on the field looks very flat. The stadium looks like a flat plane, whereas on PSVR 2, it looks like there's actual people moving in the crowd and like people in the stadium. Like even just the characters themselves look, I mean, they don't look great in either, but on the PSVR 2, they look a little better, a little more high res, a little better lighting. Just the gameplay looks choppy, even in the video that they posted. So,
I mean, the game sucks. I tried the demo.
I'm sure terrible. It sucks, but as like a comparison,
you're the one who tried it, right?
What's that?
Didn't Sean try the NFL?
Yeah, I tried it. It's pretty bad.
But all they announced is there's a new one. They showed no footage, right, of the new one?
No, but I did find a video on the MetaQuest YouTube channel with it. So this,
yeah, then that's got to be the old one, right? The one that's already out.
It does say it's a year ago, actually. Now that I look a little closer, so it could be that it's the MetaQuest 2 version. But
I'm glad you brought it up because it also they weren't really featuring like MetaQuest 3 footage on anything. I think everything was on the MetaQuest
platform.
2, which I kind of think processing wise, unless I missed something, like I don't even think it's that much more powerful than the 2. I think it's just cameras and screen that are better.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think again the big thing was the form factor. Like they were talking about 40% slimmer profile and just more comfortable. But I haven't. I'm looking at the MetaQuest 3 like press release page, and I honestly don't see any tech specs at all.
Yeah, it's
next generation Snapdragon chipset.
Oh yeah. That's huge. Everyone's talking about Snapdragon.
But let's I mean, how many people do they actually think would buy these things? And like with Oculus or whatever, MetaQuest, this is what now their 5th or 6th hardware iteration. You're now like, I don't know. I have a Quest 2. I am not considering buying another VR headset. And I wouldn't say I'm an ideal consumer for this product, but I'm definitely up there. And I can't imagine a lot of people who bought in at like Quest 2 level thinking of buying another one. I mean, maybe you guys would because you guys are hardcore, but like a lot of regular people probably would not be thinking, hey, I'm going to go upgrade my Quest 2 to a Quest 3 unless they're planning on selling the Quest 2 and maybe offsetting the cost or something. But that seems like a big effort to do. And would people really buy something that's been like caked onto your face for so long? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think the market is pretty big, especially with like upper middle class families, and like a lot of kids want them. It seems like something that all of my friends' kids are wanting them now, buying them now, and really? I think it's more about just filling a gap in that they had the Quest 2 a long time ago, and it's like they haven't announced anything new. So like this is like, yes, we're going to keep supporting it. Yes, you can use old stuff. And like it just continues. So if you're going to buy one, you might want to wait for this until for the holiday season, but we're just going to continue on with a mild upgrade. So which has me thinking like, I want to see how some of these games end up running on the Quest 2. Kind of like the old Nintendo new DS debacles. That's what I foresee happening with some of this stuff.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, these are a lot more expensive than a DS, though.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't mean it. I mean, in terms of there was games that would run great on the new DS and not on the old one. So I want to see all these new games that start releasing that work great on the Quest 3, do they still work on the Quest 2, and what is their quality level? Because I already have like when I use the Quest 2, I can feel the power of it. Like there's performance issues. Like it's kind of slow, choppy, even going through the user interface. It's the more they add to it, it's starting to
yeah. I mean, now that I have the PSVR 2, it's tough to go back to it, I have to admit. And but at the same time, I think Quest 2 still has the biggest install base of a VR headset, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, they don't want to mess with that, right? Like,
yeah, it's kind of like they took the lessons of the Wii U and tried to bridge a gap. Like we're kind of gonna continue the Wii, but not completely rebrand it. And we learn from Nintendo's mistakes. Kids love this. They don't care that much about performance. Casual people at home that use it for working out don't really care about that. If they're really into VR, they're probably going to buy something for PC anyway. So we'll just stay in our lane, games, casual, and hopefully make a lot of money from it. Seems like that's their strategy.
Yep.
And so just to skip over a few more of the games, Underdogs, this mech robot battle game, looked okay, I guess. Arizona Sunshine 2, which was covered before. Attack on Titan, didn't really know what this was.
So like an anime or manga or whatever you call it.
I think, but like the game itself, it was tough to discern what it was from what they showed.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Nexus was nothing. Like,
well, apparently it's going to be shown at the
UB Forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Stranger Things VR looked pretty lame, in my opinion.
Yeah, I didn't play as Vecna. Like, I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, and I don't even know who that is. I haven't watched past season 1. I got the sense of what it is. It's like you're playing as a monster instead of a character. The only kind of mildly intriguing one, but I don't know, was Racket Club, a new sport for VR. I was looking at the chat, and I don't know, this must be a thing now where everyone was just putting the letter L and like L's, which I think is like a loss, like wins and losses. And this game was serving up L's. let me tell you, because that's all people were typing the thing. Like it was.
One game I was surprised at was the Bulletstorm VR game, which like that IP is from like what 10 years ago. It just seems like a weird IP to bring back. And so I wonder if this is like one of those like Embracer Group acquisitions things, and they're just like pumping out whatever IPs they have kind of hanging around. I mean, that would actually be interesting to look up.
But yeah, I agree. It looked bad. There was a huge battle at the end where they were fighting this monster that looked kind of neat, but I don't know. Definitely not a big deal. I have this noted here. I don't even remember what it was. Dungeons of Eternity. Oh, that was like a co-op RPG dungeon crawler kind of thing, which looked okay. There's been lots of games like that though. This is not a new one.
I mean, that one was super generic looking. I would be interested, except that it was kind of randomly generated was the thing they were pushing with that. And I was like, yeah, that's not a selling point for me personally. But
Vampire, the Masquerade Justice. I didn't necessarily see it in the video, but the idea of like playing as a vampire in VR, I could see gameplay opportunities there. But I definitely, it wasn't in the presentation, whatever that could be. And that's another like based on an IP that I have absolutely zero reverence for and don't understand how it gets that much attention.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a known IP. Some people like it, but I'm not that interested.
Honestly, the pre-show had like more stuff that I was interested in. That No More Rainbows game looked kind of fun. I didn't know what Death Game Hotel was, but that looked kind of cool. Demio Battle. And of course, I'm sure you were going there, Sean, for our buddy Jay, Power Wash VR.
Yeah.
Huge.
Seems like
game changer.
That I mean, that would be way easier than using analog sticks to control it. So I'm in. And that We Are One puzzle game. I was gonna mention that one.
Game.
Yeah, I haven't played it, but I think it's out now. It's definitely on my radar. So
is it out on Quest 2? I know it's out on Steam.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it looked interesting.
Yeah, kind of like reminded me of what was that Cappy game that came out a few years back where it's like make copies of yourself.
Super Time Force?
Yeah. Kind of a little bit like that. I mean, I guess just mostly in concept, but
So VR, definitely a no-show this year for the most part, as far as I'm concerned. The question is, will Valve announce their new Valve Index this week? Like everyone's announcing their VR headsets. If they do, if they announce a Valve Index, I am pre-ordering it the second they release it. I need a high-tech PC VR headset that works well with Steam. So they have to be aware people want this.
so you seem to indicate that you had information, some inside info that this thing was getting announced this week.
Absolutely not. Like you got to. These two other companies have they've picked their lanes where MetaQuest is casual, low tech. Apple's the best of the best, priciest future of VR, and they are VR for gamers, and they need a new version because it's been a while.
The real question. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
I see some reports from back in April that they are developing a new headset, but
I mean that's been rumored forever.
Yeah.
And of course they're working on it, I would think, in some capacity.
I was interested in, and I was getting some alerts today, and I was wondering what was up, and it might be a time to sell Unity stock. It went up 18% today with this announcement. So people are obviously pretty jacked up about Unity being so tied in with the old ecosystem.
They should just get the Unity logo to appear in Apple press conferences, and they probably get stock bumps every time. So,
yeah,
which is crazy. There's nothing about that would make me think Unity
sell
more valuable. it always like made products for different platforms. Like it's such a weird. Anyway, okay, that's it for the showcases. We're already an hour in. What we played, I'll just start and say Diablo 4. I pre-bought the deluxe edition so I could play it last Thursday. I'm level 31. I've played it quite a bit. It is Diablo. I'm liking it a lot. But like Diablo, it's just clicking. I don't get the appeal. Like this is one of the biggest games of all time. And I find myself like, I'm just clicking and hitting these keys. It's kind of like a slightly more intense Vampire Survivors.
Well, yeah. I mean, I kind of prefer the console version for that reason, because at least you're hitting buttons. It feels like you're doing something more than clicking, but I don't know. I mean, I know people prefer the PC version. That's kind of the original way to play Diablo. So I played the beta a while back and was really enjoying it. Did not get the deluxe edition. Standard edition is loaded up and ready to go. So
it was ready to go at 7 p.m. tonight, and Sean did not know. He could start playing before the show, and he blew it big time. I don't know if this is going to amount to anything. I might abandon this game in 2 weeks, but there is a film, or let's say Game Junk clan, Diablo Junk out there. But you better get it through the Discord and let me know you're joining, because I've had some rando requests so far. So Discord is in the YouTube videos, youtube.com/GameJunk. And I played a bit of Street Fighter 6, the world tour mode, the open world kind of thing. It's all right. On PC, I have to play in windowed mode. What the fuck? Gross. Are people talking about this, Sean? Like this?
I haven't heard that. That's a little weird.
All this PC port stuff, and no one's complaining about windowed mode for Street Fighter 6?
There's no like
can't alt enter
command line switch or something you can put on there.
Oh boy,
pretty lame. But it's good. I've only put a couple hours in, so we'll see how it goes. How about you guys? Played anything?
I got Mega Man Battle Network Volume 1 or something out of the library. I've never played a Mega Man Battle Network game, so I loaded up Battle Network #2 or something like that, some random one. I was like, it's probably better than the first one, and it was pretty fun. It's sort of like an RPG strategy action game sort of thing, and I haven't got that very far, but you're basically kind of wandering around a school and a town, and then you go into like a computer, almost like Ready Player One kind of idea, and then you walk around as Mega Man in the computer. So you play as some kid that then their avatar or whatever in the computer world is Mega Man, and then when you're in this computer world, you walk around, you get in random battles with Mega Man things and characters, and then the battles are, you kind of like equip yourself with weapons for the round that you can only use so often, and then you can also shoot your Mega Blaster or whatever it's called. And it's similar. The combat is very similar to the most recent South Park game, where there's sort of like two grids, or I guess there's like there's a 3x6 grid, and you kind of have your 3x3 section, and then there's a 3x3 section for the enemies, and you kind of move within those grids, and there's other power-ups that allow you to kind of shift the grid a bit one way or the other, or remove certain tiles. And the action is real time though, so you can move within the grid to avoid attacks. So it's fairly engaging, actually. It's sort of like kind of a turn-based action game in a sense, with like real-time avoiding. So the combat's actually pretty fun, pretty engaging. I don't know how there's so many of these games though. There's quite a few. So I might play it a bit more, but it's not really that interesting. Like the first quest that I went on was like a really boring fetch quest to like randomly explore this area to find these things. And, that's never a great way to start a game, in my opinion. So isn't
it kind of like Mega Man Pokemon with a slightly different battle system?
So I haven't gotten any like collecting in terms of like the Pokemon stuff.
All the stuff on Steam is like featuring all 499 patch cards, which seem like something of collecting. I don't know. There's a lot of games, and in the Legacy Collection too, like Pokemon, there's always two versions. It's Red Sun, Blue Moon, Team Proto, Team Colonel. Like it's
yeah. I literally I got this out of the library because I was like, I've never played this game. I'll give it a try. I don't know anything about it. So I literally, you now know more than I do, because I never read the Wikipedia page or the Steam page. So I literally don't know anything except when I launched the game and saw what it had. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, I'm not totally compelled to go back to it. So we'll see. My time is limited these days, so I won't probably spend too much more time with it. But
they released a Volume 1 and Volume 2 on Steam. There's looks like a complete collection on the Switch.
Yeah, so I have the Legacy
for $80.
Legacy collection. If that,
or you can buy that split up into two individually, it looks like. So
yeah, so there's like two volumes in that. When I launched it on the Switch, it has like two apps that get installed: Legacy Collection 1 and Legacy Collection 2. So
you get a bit of a discount if you buy that one altogether.
Oh, I got a discount, all right. $0. The old library.
Cool.
Sean, anything for you?
I'll just quickly mention System Shock. Played a little bit of this remake. Had never played the original. Always kind of wanted to, and it's kind of it does feel like it's kind of up my alley to some degree. I guess it's like obviously it's like a precursor to BioShock. Also was pre Deus Ex. Feels kind of like an influence on that game, but it's interesting, the remake, because it feels kind of retro, like in terms of the interface and stuff, but it plays fairly modern. So I kind of like that balance. Like it kind of gives me a bit of nostalgia, even though I never played the game. But it's a first-person shooter. It has horror elements. You're kind of just fighting these zombie things to start with. And I really liked I got to one of the cyberspace sections, which I really liked. I guess my main complaint so far would be that the levels, I mean, I don't know what you progress to, but they feel a bit repetitive and maze-like. Like I was looking at the map constantly because I just could not tell each room apart really. And the death, I don't know if you played a bit of this, right, Frank?
Played the demo, yeah.
I don't know if you died at all in the demo, but when you die, there is a very long sequence you have to watch. As far as I can tell, I couldn't figure out how to skip it. So it's a 2 human style situation, and was not loving that.
Worth mentioning, this game is known, I wanted to confirm, the genre immersive sim, kind of first person, like technically under adventure games, but look like first person shooter. I would think BioShock, even though it's listed as an immersive sim, is also a bit more of an action game. This one's more about investigating and solving puzzles. So
yeah, I mean,
it's not as much about combat from what I played.
I mean, I've got a gun now. There is shooting and stuff, but it is a little bit slower paced than maybe what you might expect. But that's totally fine.
I don't know what the actual line is between immersive sim and first person shooter. Like,
yeah,
seems a little nebulous here, but I'm gonna have to do a little more research. Anything else for anyone?
I played a little more Tears of the Kingdom. I'm kind of burnt out in the second kind of like fire dungeon. I mentioned to you guys, I just don't have that much desire to go back and play through this temple. I got about halfway through. The puzzles seemed all fairly similar. Like they're not the exact same, but it's pretty similar to the first Wind Temple. You kind of have to just basically find switches and turn them on. That's essentially what the first 2 temples are like. And I just had no desire that, like, the distances are so far, I was having trouble finding, like, just determining if I was going the right way and stuff like that. And I was getting stressed out about missing something and then having to come like all the way back down through this thing. I mean, normally Nintendo and Zelda are pretty good at making sure that doesn't happen, but I still feel like it's possible, and that if I'm not careful, I could end up having to backtrack all the way through the temple.
Dungeons are tiny in this game, super tiny.
Yeah, well,
yeah. The one Huck's talking about, though, you walk in and it's like 5 floors, and you're like, oh shit! Yeah. And there's all these rail lines running around, and it seems really complicated. But once you get into it, it's not. I didn't think it was that bad. You can kind of just climb up to a lot of stuff and go from there. But
oh yeah, I didn't even think about climbing.
I mean, it depends. You got to be putting stuff. I always put all my points into stamina for a good long while, just so I can climb everywhere and then worry about hearts later.
It's probably a good strategy. That's it.
Interesting. Okay, well, I think that wraps it up for this week. Just a reminder, Return to Grace is out on Steam. Our friends from Creative Bytes getting pretty good Metacritic reviews too. So congrats to them. Hopefully we can have them on in the near future. And youtube.com/GameJunk. And the Discord link is in there. Huck is Equilibrium Sys and My Angry Commute. Sean is Film Junk, and gonna be a lot to talk about coming up. We got the Summer Games Fest, Microsoft showcases. Could be some long episodes coming. So thanks for checking this one out, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.